Jimmy Kimmel thought he had the upper hand until Elon Musk answered with a line so sharp, so unexpected, the internet has been talking about it ever since. It was just another Wednesday night on the set of Jimmy Kimmel Live, the kind of evening where the audience expected a few laughs, some celebrity banter, and maybe a viral moment or two. The lights were bright, the crowd was buzzing, and Jimmy, with his signature smirk, was ready to steer the show as he always did. He had invited Elon Musk, the billionaire tech mogul, as his guest, and everyone in the studio could feel the tension in the air. Elon wasn't just any guest. He was a polarizing figure, a man who dominated headlines with his ambitious ventures, controversial tweets, and, more recently, his political affiliations. Jimmy, known for his sharp wit and unapologetic commentary, saw this as an opportunity to challenge Elon, to poke at the billionaire's larger-than-life persona, and maybe even get under his skin. What Jimmy didn't expect was that Elon would turn the tables in a way that would leave the host stunned and the internet ablaze. The night began as most episodes of Jimmy Kimmel Live do, with Jimmy taking the stage to a round of applause. He stood behind his desk, adjusted his tie, and launched into his opening monologue. He cracked a few jokes about the latest political drama, threw in a jab at a pop star's new album, and then turned his attention to his guest for the evening. He told the audience that Elon Musk, the man behind Tesla, SpaceX, and now a key player in the Trump administration, would be joining him later. The crowd cheered, some with excitement, others with a hint of skepticism. Jimmy didn't hold back, immediately diving into Elon's recent antics. He mentioned how Elon had been making waves with his role in the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, alongside Vivek Ramaswamy. Jimmy quipped that the acronym sounded like something a middle schooler would come up with for a prank, not a serious government initiative. The audience laughed and Jimmy's confidence grew. He went on to highlight Elon's massive wealth, pointing out that Tesla and SpaceX had raked in billions in government contracts while Elon pushed for federal job cuts. Jimmy called it hypocritical, comparing Elon to a kid playing with a toy steering wheel while pretending to drive a real car. The crowd ate it up and Jimmy felt like he was in control. Backstage, Elon Musk was preparing for his appearance. He had agreed to come on the show despite knowing Jimmy's reputation for taking digs at him. Elon wasn't blind to the late-night host's criticisms over the past few months. Jimmy had repeatedly targeted him on air, mocking everything from his Twitter acquisition to his personal life. Just a few weeks earlier, Elon had called Jimmy an insufferable nonsense propaganda puppet on X, a jab that Jimmy had responded to with a biting retort about Elon's strained relationship with his daughter Vivian. The tension between the two was palpable, and Elon knew that stepping onto Jimmy's stage meant walking into a potential minefield. But Elon wasn't one to back down from a challenge. He had a plan, and he was ready to face whatever Jimmy threw his way. As the show progressed, Jimmy kept the energy high. He played a pre-recorded sketch where he pretended to be a Tesla employee dealing with one of Elon's infamous late-night emails demanding impossible deadlines. The bit got laughs, and Jimmy used it as a segue to bring Elon out. The audience clapped as Elon walked onto the stage, dressed in a sleek black suit, his hair neatly combed back. He waved to the crowd, offering a small smile, and took his seat across from Jimmy. The two shook hands, but the handshake felt more like a formality than a gesture of warmth. Jimmy leaned back in his chair, his expression a mix of amusement and mischief, while Elon sat upright, his hands clasped together, his eyes sharp and focused. Jimmy started the interview with a few softball questions, asking Elon about SpaceX's latest Starship launch and Tesla's plans for the future. Elon answered with his usual mix of technical detail and dry humor, explaining how SpaceX was working toward colonizing Mars and how Tesla's new battery technology could revolutionize energy storage. The audience listened attentively and Jimmy nodded along, but it was clear he was biding his time. After a few minutes of light conversation, Jimmy shifted gears. He brought up Elon's role in the Trump administration, mentioning the Department of Government Efficiency. Jimmy asked how Elon, a billionaire who had benefited from government contracts, could justify slashing federal jobs. The question was pointed, and the audience could sense the shift in tone. Elon paused for a moment, his expression unreadable, before responding. He explained that the goal of Doge was to make government more efficient, not to hurt workers, and that cutting waste was necessary to ensure taxpayer money was used wisely. Jimmy wasn't satisfied with the answer. He pressed harder, asking if Elon thought it was fair that his companies profited while regular people lost their jobs. The crowd murmured, and Elon's jaw tightened slightly. The conversation then turned to Elon's political involvement. Jimmy brought up Elon's financial support for Trump's campaign, including the alleged million-dollar voter giveaways that had sparked controversy. Jimmy asked if Elon thought it was ethical to use his wealth to influence elections. The question was loaded, and the audience leaned in, waiting for Elon's response. Elon didn't flinch. He said that he believed in supporting candidates who aligned with his vision for the future, and that the giveaways were a way to encourage voter participation, not to buy votes. Jimmy smirked, clearly unconvinced, and made a quip about how Elon's vision for the future seemed to involve a lot of money changing hands. The audience laughed, and Jimmy leaned forward, sensing that he had Elon on the ropes. At this point, Jimmy decided to take a more personal jab. He mentioned the vandalism of Tesla vehicles that had been making headlines, where people had spray-painted messages criticizing Elon. Jimmy asked Elon why he thought people were so angry at him. Before Elon could answer, Jimmy cut in with a sarcastic remark, saying that maybe people got upset when you pull out a chainsaw to celebrate firing thousands. The line was a reference to Elon's mass layoffs at Twitter after he bought the company, and it drew a big laugh from the crowd. Jimmy sat back, looking pleased with himself, while Elon's expression remained stoic. The host thought he had landed a solid blow, one that would keep Elon on the defensive for the rest of the interview. What Jimmy didn't realize was that Elon had been waiting for a moment like this. Elon took a deep breath, his eyes narrowing slightly as he looked at Jimmy. He then spoke, his voice calm but firm, delivering a line that would echo across the internet for days to come. He said, "Jimmy, I build things that take humanity to the stars, while you build monologues that keep people on their couches. Maybe that's why they're angrier at you." The studio fell silent for a split second, the weight of Elon's words sinking in. Then the audience erupted, some with gasps, others with laughter, and a few with cheers. Jimmy's smirk vanished, replaced by a look of genuine surprise. He hadn't expected Elon to come back with such a sharp, cutting retort, one that not only deflected the criticism, but turned it back on Jimmy in a way that stung. The line was a perfect encapsulation of Elon's persona, confident, unapologetic, and unafraid to hit below the belt. It also struck at the heart of Jimmy's role as a late-night host, implying that his work was trivial compared to Elon's world-changing ambitions. Jimmy tried to recover quickly, forcing a laugh and saying, "Well, I guess we know who's better at burning bridges." But the damage was done. The audience could sense that Elon had landed a blow Jimmy couldn't easily shake off. For the rest of the interview, Jimmy's questions felt less confident, his jabs less sharp. Elon, on the other hand, seemed to gain momentum, answering with a quiet intensity that kept the audience on edge. When the segment ended and Elon left the stage, Jimmy moved on to his next bit, but it was clear his mind was still on Elon's comeback. The crowd, too, was buzzing with what they had just witnessed. As soon as the show wrapped, clips of the exchange began circulating online. On X, users dissected Elon's line, with some calling it a masterful takedown and others labeling it arrogant. Hashtags like Walker Elon vs Jimmy and Kimmelburn trended within hours. Reddit threads popped up analyzing every word of the comeback, with users debating who had won the exchange. Some praised Elon for standing up to Jimmy's snark, while others defended Jimmy, arguing that Elon's response was a cheap shot. TikTok creators jumped in, stitching the clip with their own reactions, many of them reenacting Jimmy's stunned expression. The internet was divided, but one thing was clear. Elon's line had struck a nerve, and it wasn't going away anytime soon. In the days that followed, the media picked up the story. Outlets like CNN and Fox News ran segments on the feud, with pundits weighing in on whether Elon's comment was a brilliant clapback or an overstep. Late-night hosts like Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Fallon referenced the moment in their own monologues, with Fallon joking that he'd never invite Elon on his show for fear of getting roasted. Even Elon's estranged daughter, Vivian Wilson, commented on X saying, He's good at burning bridges. I'll give him that. The comment added fuel to the fire, reigniting discussions about Elon's personal life and his relationship with his children. Meanwhile, Jimmy addressed the viral moment on his next show, trying to laugh it off by saying, "I guess I'll stick to my couch, and Elon can keep reaching for the stars, or at least for Trump's approval." But the quip didn't land the way he'd hoped, and some viewers felt Jimmy was still reeling from the encounter. Elon, for his part, didn't shy away from the attention. He tweeted about the exchange, saying, "Sometimes you have to remind people who's actually building the future." The tweet got thousands of likes and retweets, with his supporters rallying behind him. Critics, however, pointed out the irony of Elon accusing Jimmy of keeping people on their couches when Tesla's layoffs had left thousands jobless. The debate raged on, with both sides digging in. Some saw Elon as a visionary who had put a smug host in his place, while others viewed him as a bully using his platform to punch down. The fallout from that Wednesday night didn't stop with the initial viral moment. Over the next few weeks, the exchange became a cultural touchstone, referenced in memes, podcasts, and even political discussions. It highlighted the growing divide between tech moguls like Elon and the entertainment industry, as well as the broader tension between innovation and accountability. For Jimmy, the moment was a rare misstep, a reminder that even the sharpest hosts can be caught off guard. For Elon, it was a victory, proof that he could hold his own against even the most seasoned critics. And for the internet, it was the kind of drama that thrives in the digital age, a clash of titans that kept people talking long after the credits rolled on Jimmy Kimmel Live. That one line from Elon Musk, delivered on a seemingly ordinary Wednesday night, had turned the tables in a way Jimmy Kimmel never saw coming. It exposed the fault lines between two very different worlds, Hollywood and Silicon Valley, entertainment and innovation, and gave the internet a moment it wouldn't soon forget. The debate over who really put who in their place continued to simmer, but one thing was undeniable. Elon's words had left a mark, and Jimmy Kimmel, for all his wit and charm, had been left scrambling to respond. The internet, as always, had the final say, keeping the conversation alive with every retweet, comment, and meme. What had started as just another episode of Jimmy Kimmel Live had become a cultural lightning rod, all because of a single unexpected comeback that no one saw coming.